Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast for intermediate to advanced English learners. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has found himself in the middle of another political scandal. A quick glance at Twitter, newspapers, or even speeches in Parliament will reveal countless insults aimed at Boris. He's a liar, disrespectful, an idiot. These insults are a little boring and repetitive. So I thought I'd make a guide for insulting Boris Johnson using some of his own unique vocabulary. Check out the blog thinkinginenglish.blog for a full vocabulary list and transcript, and also head over to my Instagram page, Thinking in English Podcast, for more excellent content. Boris Johnson is not having the best week. The Prime Minister of the UK, famous for his dishevelled appearance and numerous scandals, is caught up in the middle of a political storm. Johnson, of course, is used to controversy. He was fired from his first job at the Times newspaper for making up quotes. He lied to the Spectator magazine about his intentions to become a politician when he was appointed editor there. He was fired from his first major political role for lying about an affair. And he lied and made untrue claims while campaigning for Brexit. I guess it's fair to call him a liar. Johnson currently finds himself in the centre of another scandal due to his lies. This time over a party at 10 Downing Street, the home of the UK's Prime Minister, on May 20th, 2020. As the normal people of the UK were under strict lockdowns, being fined up to £10,000 for hosting parties, only allowed to meet one person at a time, and thousands of people unable to see their dying relatives due to pandemic regulations, the government and Boris were hosting parties and gatherings for more than 40 people. Boris Johnson broke his own rules. He misled the Parliament of the UK, and now he leads the country as a weak and increasingly unpopular figure. He was elected due to his reputation, the general dislike of opposition politicians, and his promise to get Brexit done. Well, although he kept his promise about Brexit, his weakness as a leader has been clearly exposed. I think you probably can tell I'm not a fan of Mr. Johnson. To be honest, I never liked him, even when he was Mayor of London. He is an elite and privileged man with a reputation for being a liar and power-hungry, and somehow tricked the country and the world into thinking he is an awkward, bumbling, harmless figure. I did have hopes that I was wrong when he was elected, but as of now, I'm pretty sure my dislike was justified. There are a lot of things I want to say about or call Boris Johnson. There are so many different insults I could use to describe him. However, in honor of Boris, I think it would be interesting to teach you all a few insults that Boris himself has used or invented. Johnson is well known for his eccentric and unique command of the English language. He regularly uses unfamiliar words in his speeches and writings. So let's learn a few of these Borisisms. And then let's use these Borisisms against the man himself. Boondoggle. In 2004, as a writer for the Daily Telegraph, Johnson used the word boondoggle in an article on a UK-Italian conference in Venice. He wrote, "It is known to the politico-journalistic class as a junket, jolly, freebie, or boondoggle, and which is classified for the benefit of irritable taxpayers as a conference. What does boondoggle mean? Why did he use it? It is a term originating in 1930s North America and refers to a wasteful, unnecessary, or fraudulent project. In the article, he described the conference as a boondoggle, basically saying it was a worthless event. While Boris was Mayor of London, he strongly supported and funded a project known as the Garden Bridge, a very expensive, failed idea to build a new bridge across London's River Thames, covered in plants and flowers. I think we could describe this Boris project as a boondoggle. Gibbering rictus. Boris Johnson is now known as a politician, first as an MP, then a mayor, then foreign secretary, and now prime minister. He wasn't always, though. In 2007, he wrote a book called Life in the Fast Lane, which was about cars. One famous quote from the book describes the experience and feeling of driving fast. You feel as if your buttocks have been suddenly clamped by the leather seat. My face was being pushed back into a gibbering rictus as the G-forces kicked in. A gibbering rictus? What does a gibbering rictus mean? It's not a term you'll find in textbooks, dictionaries, or any normal conversation. Gibbering rictus is a noun phrase referring to a person who is open-mouthed with fear. You are so scared that your mouth is open. Rictus either means the opening of a mouth or a type of smile with an open mouth. Gibbering as an adjective refers to speaking rapidly or unintelligibly through shock or fear. So, gibbering rictus was used to mean that he was so scared his mouth was stuck open. I wonder if Johnson was a gibbering rictus when the country found out about his secret lockdown parties. Hogwhimpering. Hogwhimpering is another adjective from Johnson's time as a writer for the Daily Telegraph. In an article on the British attitude to alcohol in 2005, he wrote, "Deep down, because of some peculiarity in our psyche, we think it is rather admirable to get bladdered, leathered, rat-arsed, and otherwise hog-whimpering drunk." Originally coming from American English, hog-whimpering is an adjective used to describe extreme drunkenness. It comes from the phrase, enough alcohol to make a hog whimper. I'm sure some of the guests at the government parties found themselves hog-whimpering drunk, as the rest of us spent our evenings stuck on Zoom. Maenad. Now, I'm not sure if I've pronounced this correctly, but I'm going to say it's Maenad. In the same article where I found hog-whimpering, Johnson also used Maenad as an insult for a drunken woman, referring to an incident where he was threatened in a pub in the north of England. He wrote, "A woman was sitting opposite me in a state of some dishevelment. She was extremely good looking and had a tattoo of a butterfly on her bosom, but she was pretty far gone. Not since Pentheus was ripped limb from limb by the Maenads have we seen such a drink-fueled aggression from the female sex." Maenad? I had to brush up on my ancient Greek history to understand this insult. Johnson used it as a noun meaning a drunken woman. The Maenads were the female followers of the ancient Greek god of wine, Dionysus, and were infamous for their erratic and frenzied behavior after drinking too much. Boris and his wife hosted a wine and cheese event during UK's strictest lockdowns. So I wonder if any of the guests transformed into Maenads after indulging a little too much. Swankpot journalists. Famously, Johnson started life as a journalist, a role from which he was once fired. In 2001, Johnson detailed why he became a politician in his book Friends, Voters, Countrymen. The world ought not to be run by swankpot journalists showing off and kicking politicians around. Swankpot is a British term, although rarely heard, that can be used to describe a swaggering or conceited person. It refers to ostentatious behavior. In other words, people acting pretentiously in a way designed to impress others. In Friends, Voters, Countrymen, Johnson claimed that he was motivated 30% by public service, 40% by sheer egomania, and 30% by disapproval of swankpot journalists. I think it's clear now this was not a joke. He cares little about public service, and I wish that he remained a swankpot journalist himself. Mugwump and Mutton-headed. In 2017, as then Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn was enjoying a swell in grassroots support, Johnson claimed Corbyn was a threat to national security in an article found in the Sun newspaper. He also insulted Corbyn using the now famous phrase, "a mutton-headed old mugwump." Now, if you are a fan of Harry Potter or Roald Dahl, Mugwump may be familiar to you. Albus Dumbledore, the head teacher of Hogwarts in the Harry Potter series, has the title Supreme Mugwump, while the phrase, "my dear old muddle-headed Mugwump," is found in Dahl's Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. The term Mugwump originates from an Algonquian Native American phrase for great chief. However, in English, it has come to mean a person who remains independent and is aloof, especially used to describe a politician who doesn't join a political party. Mutton-headed is a simpler insult and is slang for foolish or stupid. Although I wouldn't use the term mugwump personally, I would certainly call Mr. Johnson a mutton-headed liar. You'd have to be mutton-headed to invite 100 people to a party in the middle of a national lockdown. Puffed up popinjay. This next insult was found on Twitter. Surprisingly, this is the first tweet on today's list. In an attack on London Mayor Sadiq Khan, who had been vocal in his criticism of Donald Trump, Johnson tweeted, "We will not allow US-UK relations to be endangered by some puffed-up, pompous popinjay in City Hall." A puffed-up popinjay. Popinjay is an archaic old term for a parrot, while puffed up is an adjective for a vain person. If you describe someone as puffed up, you are expressing disapproval that as that person is too proud of themselves and they think that they are overly important. I would say that only a puffed up popinjay would be arrogant enough to break his own lockdown rules for a party, while millions of Britons were stuck inside and followed his advice. So here is today's final thought. Hopefully this episode has provided you with a few creative insults and demonstrated the breadth of the English language. Boris Johnson employs archaic, old, rare, and unique language that he gathers from other parts of the world, classic literature, or even invents himself. Perhaps you can use a few of these terms to insult Mr. Johnson in his own words. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review or rating, recommend it to your friends, or let me know on Instagram. My Instagram is Thinking in English Podcast. The link should be in the description. And make sure you check out the Thinking in English blog. I love hearing from listeners, and I really appreciate all of the messages I have received over the past few months. Feel free to send me a message or I don't know, give me some advice or recommend a topic. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.